Hello everyone, my name is Kane, and today we're going to be talking about digitization of audio and moving image collections. This presentation is going to cover an introduction, the digitization process, format standards, AV digitization and digital libraries, scholarly discourse, and the preservation crisis. Introduction. Audio and moving image materials are collectively known as audiovisual materials or AV materials. Digitization of audio and moving images consists of taking analog materials or digital materials on physical carriers and reformatting them into digital file-based materials for the purpose of both preservation and access. Analog materials fall into three main categories: film, magnetic tape, and grooved recording. Digital materials on physical carriers include CDs, DVDs, mini discs, and digital audio tapes, which are a hybrid in that they are digitally encoded in ones and zeros, but the physical carrier used is magnetic tape. Next, we have the digitization process. Conceptual vocabulary that is important to understand is CPR, conservation, safely keeping the original item and its hardware so that content can be retrieved; preservation, retaining the content of the original item so that it is safeguarded for future use; restoration, re-recording the conserved item to make it more acceptable to modern ears and eyes; and based on my finding, there's a second R, repair. Before any digitization can take place, there are often repairs that need to be done. Analog materials are fragile. Common things you will encounter are listed here. Of note is that though CDs and DVDs can be damaged, there is no way to repair them. Repairs are one of the reasons that AV digitization is a very complex process. Audio digitization can be done in-house, is considered low cost, is universally recommended for audio preservation, and is time-consuming as content capture must be done in real time. Technical requirements include analog audio playback machine, an analog to digital converter, also called ADC, computer with audio processing software, digital repository, and a mixing board is also suggested but not considered a requirement. Moving image digitization is high cost. There is debate on its use for preservation purposes. There are two different methods for films specifically. Either it is reformatted to magnetic tape and then reformatted again from magnetic tape to file-based digital, or the film is scanned by a motion picture scanner that takes a high-resolution scan of each frame, which is the preferred method. Video, which uses magnetic tape, requires real-time capture. Film scanning does not require real-time capture, but it does take a significant amount of time to process the resulting scans through restoration software, which is sometimes needed. Technical requirements include, for video, a playback machine, an ADC, and a computer with a high-end processor and software. And for film, you need a motion picture scanner and a computer with a high-end processor and software. After digital capture, the next steps are processing, metadata creation, ingesting into a digital library management system, and long-term preservation. Hardware required to digitize AV materials are playback machines, audio-digital converters, which the Federal Agency's Digital Guidelines Initiative recently did analysis on both low-cost versus high-performance options. Then for film, you need a film scanner, also called a motion picture scanner. Laser Graphics, pictured here, is one of the leading manufacturers. You also need software to process your AV materials. The best audio editing software of 2023 is Audacity, GarageBand, and Adobe Audition. The best video editing software of 2023 is Adobe Premiere Pro, CyberLink PowerDirector 365, and Corel Video Studio Ultimate. Next, we have format standards. Audio standards have not changed since 2009 and are universally agreed upon. They include a 24-bit depth, 48 to 96 kilohertz sampling rate, lossless compression, and broadcast wave format, which has the dot wave extension. Moving image standards are more complicated, as they have no shared standard for encoding and wrapper formats. In a 2012 survey, it was found that within 21 nonprofit audiovisual archives, there were 12 different formats used for moving image preservation. Currently, the top three combinations of wrapper and codec are a V210 with a QuickTime wrapper, a JPEG 2000 with an MXF wrapper, and a FFV1 with an AV1 or a Matrisoka wrapper. FADGI and the Library of Congress created an MXF standard, which became MXF SMPTE standard RDD48 in 2018. LOC's format choices are often not possible for smaller institutions, and MXF and other proprietary standards can lack interoperability with different generations of software. Moving image preservation professionals are sometimes at odds with the film production industry regarding creating or implementing shared format and encoding standards, and the film industry has a significant amount of say on what moving image standards get created and what issues get prioritized. Next, we have AV digitization and digital libraries. Why is AV digitization important to digital libraries? Well, in many cases, digitization equals access, and access is facilitated by digital libraries. Moving on to scholarly discourse. Bresson et al.'s study investigates whether picking up both sides of an audio on two-sided tape in one pass is a viable cost saver, or whether using this method causes an inaccurate capture. They found with their experiment that there are alterations that happen when reading the track backwards, measurable at a signal level. The study did not ascertain whether those alterations were perceptible by human listeners. Overall, they recommend more research be conducted. Gayo and Mainville identify barriers small institutions face to digitization, such as funding, time, and expertise. They end their article with a call to collaboration as a means of shouldering the weight of AV preservation and digitization. A vein of scholarship is the ethicality of digital tools in film restoration or long-term preservation. There are those who view transferring the content of a film item onto new film stock as the only ethical way to preserve the item. Others state that the only way to ensure long-term preservation is through digitization. Though Z and Matusiak state that this debate is still ongoing, the Library of Congress states that preservation of personal AV collections may include preservation of the physical objects, but must include conversion and maintenance to a current digital format. Another significant portion of scholarly discourse is the preservation crisis. Two large parts of the crisis are playback machine obsolescence and material deterioration. Playback machine obsolescence refers to the fact that the machines needed to play back AV materials are disappearing. They are out of production. In almost all cases, if you cannot play back the material, you cannot digitize it. As previously discussed in the repair slide, analog and digital on physical carrier AV materials are not stable. AV materials are the most fragile items within any collection. In 2028, it was determined that we have no more than 20 years to reformat AV materials. That placed us at 2028 as, in a best-case scenario, the year that we lose access to massive amounts of AV materials. Gayo and Mainville placed the crisis year at 2025 for magnetic media. This shrinking deadline is influenced most by obsolescence, and is especially worrisome as a majority of AV materials in cultural heritage institutions are on magnetic tape. The question now is not if we will lose unique AV materials, but how many. What exactly are we losing when we talk about magnetic tape AV materials? According to 2020 survey by the International Association of Sound and Audiovisual Archive and UNESCO, the top three genres of content are 1. Documentaries, speeches, and events, 2. Oral histories, and 3. World, folk, and traditional music. I'll end with a quote from Z and Matusiak. For audiovisual materials, however, there is not survival without digital reformatting. Thank you for your time, and here are my references.